Welcome to episode 85 of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. I am one of your two co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter. Joined with me here today is my regular co-host, Peter Zollman. It's been a while since I've seen you, my man.
Never called me regular before either, but that's okay.
my highly irregular co-host, Peter Zollman.
That sounds fair to me. And a good afternoon to you. I hope you're moving house next week.
We are.
And I hope it all goes smoothly.
Thank you.
I'm sitting in the basement of my son's house in New Jersey, where I came to visit the grandkid for a few days. And it's good to connect. So I will start off with a lawsuit. We love it when the big boys are getting in trouble, right? Or at least, I don't know, in trouble is the right word, but there's certainly always some stuff flinging around at them.
It's a little bit like when you're driving down a freeway and you see an accident and you know that you shouldn't be so interested, but you are.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So anyway, Indeed is being sued for patent violations. A company called FlexiWorld Technologies sued, saying that FlexiWorld says 4 features of Indeed's web-based platform and mobile apps infringe 4 FlexiWorld Technologies patents related to methods and systems for mining users' data to provide services over the internet. Well, to call me a patent expert would be patently ridiculous. Although you're the only one who makes stupid puns there.
Right. It's a competition. I think.
But the stupid pun competition. But good luck to FlexiWorld. It appears that they are not an operating company, which means that they are more, they're suing Canon over wireless printers. They're suing Amazon and Roku last year. It owns the patents, but it doesn't do anything with them. Sometimes, though, my guess is one of two things. Either Indeed will squash them pretty quickly, or they'll settle pretty quickly to get rid of the nuisance value.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on this stuff at all, but patent lawsuits are a dime a dozen, or maybe even worse than that.
Yeah. Just because you have a patent does not actually mean that you own the intellectual property for it, because it's sort of like a presumption that you own it, but it's not absolute proof that you own.
And methods for data mining, okay. As I said, I'm not an expert. Yeah. You're not an expert. Well, I don't think Indeed and its parent company Recruit are quaking in their boots. Let's get to the one that's.
Well, before we do,
yes.
You had just before we jumped on, you were saying that the AIM group is going to give our viewers and our listeners a little bit of a bonus.
Yeah, but I figured I'd open this article coming up rather than the last article.
Oh, okay. So
LinkedIn has been fined $335 million, or 310 million euros if you're across the pond.
Okay.
Same amount, basically, for violating GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation in the European Union. Their big operation in Ireland and Dublin. LinkedIn has pretty much all of its European operations there. Company has 30 days to appeal the decision. I'm guessing for $335 million, they're going to appeal. And let's talk more generally. Privacy is a huge issue for job boards / recruitment marketplaces.
Yeah.
You probably spend a lot of time on it at College Recruiter. Why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
And what it entails?
Yeah, no doubt. So one of the things that a lot of our viewers and listeners might not really appreciate is that GDPR, although it is probably the best known privacy law, it is not anywhere close to being the only privacy law. There are over 190 different privacy laws around the world. Some are regional, like GDPR for the EU. Some are country specific. Some are for particular regions within a country, like California's Privacy Act law. Some of the privacy laws are impossible to comply with if you are also complying with one of the others. And so the larger the job board in terms of the geography, the more countries and markets that you operate in, the more likely it is that you're going to have to comply with multiple privacy laws. It's entirely possible. I don't know much about the LinkedIn lawsuit. It's entirely possible that LinkedIn was fully compliant in every respect, and that the EU regulators are just coming down on them in a wrong way. But it's also, I think, far more likely that with all of the intricacies of the privacy laws, the poorly worded legislation that a lot of them have, that LinkedIn actually was not in compliance. They may have thought they were, they may have made every effort to be, and the regulators are just looking at the legislation differently than LinkedIn does. But that's why you have courts.
Well, this is interesting because LinkedIn said it's a final decision on claims from 2018 about some of our digital advertising efforts in the EU. While we believe we've been in compliance with the GDPR, we are working to ensure our ad practices meet the decision by the IDPC, which is the Irish Data Protection Commission or something like that, deadline. Asked whether the company intended to appeal, she added, "Our focus right now is on ensuring our ad practices meet this decision by the IDPC deadline." So they didn't even say they were going to appeal. It's kind of unusual when you get fined 335 million, but there also may be some negotiation going on, and so they don't appeal, but they settle for 150 million or 120 million. Look, LinkedIn, Microsoft. Microsoft was fined, was set aside. Microsoft last year said it had set aside 425 million. Microsoft is LinkedIn's parent company.
Yeah.
To cover the cost of penalties arising from the case. So the 425 million was set aside. They got fined 335 million, and
I mean that kind of reading between the lines there, that to me sounds like somebody at Microsoft said, "Oops, we made a mistake. We're going to have to pony up some money." A year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they didn't know how much it was going to be. They made a pretty conservative estimate, and the actual fine came in less than the amount of money that they set aside. And now they're talking about making sure that they're in compliance. That sure sounds to me like they got their hands caught in the cookie jar. And again, not necessarily knowingly. They may have absolutely have thought that they were fully in compliance, and that the regulators are reading the law one way, and others and the folks at LinkedIn, Microsoft were reading it a different way. One of the things I was hoping to talk with you about, and you kind of alluded to this, Peter, was when you were talking about job boards and recruitment marketplaces, that privacy is a big deal to us. No doubt. The AIM group also covers other classified verticals, right? Cars and autos, real estate, etc. Are these privacy laws as big of a deal?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They're a very big deal. Look, it's all about your audience, whether it's recruitment, whether it's real estate, whether it's automotive, has to be confident that their information is not going to be hacked, is not going to be taken. I think it's more critical in recruitment because you've got so much personal
Yeah.
PII, personally
Yeah.
identifiable information. And in many databases, people are required to put in their government ID number, US based job boards won't take a social security number, the legitimate ones. But,
Good
and one of the
distinction.
things, Chris Russell had a really good column about a week ago about how to tell when scammers are trying to use your job board. Chris Russell, rectechmedia.com. But it's a constant, they get in, they say, oh, you got the job. Can you, we'll send you a check and then use it for this and that. And then they want your social security number. They want your tax ID number,
Right.
things like that. It's a constant battle for job boards and recruitment marketplaces to make sure that the scammers aren't getting a way to find people who are sometimes desperate to get a job. And that's not a question of the privacy laws. That's a question of scammers using your sites. And that is often true as well with real estate sites, with automotive sites, and with the general merchandise or the stuff sites, the sites like Craigslist and Kijiji in Canada and Le Bon Coin in France, where people are, person-to-person transactions, and the risk is high.
Yeah.
So privacy is a big issue for job boards. It's also a big issue for automotive, real estate, and recruitment. We said we'd run 10 minutes. We're now at 12 and a half.
Yeah. So you wanted to tell the viewers and for those
yes.
listening to the audio only version of the podcast about a bit of a bonus that if they want to look at, I think it was the LinkedIn.
I'll open up the LinkedIn. We'll open up the LinkedIn, take it out from behind the paywall.
Yeah.
aimgroup.com. And if you just search for LinkedIn and privacy or some variation thereof, it is included in our recruitment intelligence report. I know Stephen is a longtime subscriber. In fact, you were the first.
Subscriber number 2, wasn't I?
No, you were number 1. And you still are number 1, Stephen.
Wow.
But you were our first subscriber, and it's been probably 4 years now, and you haven't spent nearly enough money for it, but we're glad you do.
I keep sending, Jonathan, the CEO of AIM Group, I keep sending him massive checks, and he keeps telling me that he's not going to tell Peter anything about it. But maybe that's a topic for another.
And they're made out to Jonathan Turpin, I presume.
They are personally, and he just deposits them into his personal account and says that Peter can go and something about jumping into a lake.
Sounds fair to me.
Well, good to see you.
Case,
yes,
it has been good to do this. Good luck with your move next week.
Thank you.
I will be home. I hope the hurricane debris has been cleaned up by the time I get back. And it was very minor compared to what happened to a lot of people. So I consider myself remarkably lucky. Have a good week, sir.
Cheers, Peter. Happy Halloween.
Thanks. Bye.
Global business intelligence services, news and analysis, conferences, and consulting about recruitment marketplaces and classified sites worldwide. We've been at it for 25 years. We've worked with some of the biggest names in the business, and most of them are longtime clients. We publish comprehensive, deep dive reports annually on the leading marketplaces in recruitment, autos, real estate, and general merchandise. We also publish the bi-weekly AIM Group Marketplaces report. Our newest product is a weekly newsletter on recruitment marketplaces. Check out aimgroup.com to sign up or for more information. Our signature conference is RecBuzz, bringing in about 250 C-level executives, investors, and vendors. At RecBuzz, you get to network with counterparts and key industry experts like nowhere else. The 2025 edition is in Vienna. Sign up at recbuzz.com.